Recently, Dataminers uncovered additional information regarding the upcoming hyper training system. This is something that a lot of players are anticipating because it's going to be a way for you to increase the IVs of your Pokemon. I'm going to be talking about all of this in today's video. Let's get right into it. Hey, how's it going everyone? Jinsula here with a brand new Pokémon GO video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. So one of the most anticipated features for Pokémon GO is, of course, hyper training. This is a mechanic that's going to allow you to increase the IVs of your Pokemon, and it's something that a lot of players have been asking for the past couple of years. And I really do think it's going to change the game. In a lot of ways for the better, but in some ways probably bad. But regardless of how you feel about it, I think it's definitely something that the game has needed for quite some time, mainly because when it comes to this game, there is a lot of RNG mechanics. There's very little player control. If you want 100% IVs of a particular Pokemon, for example, it's really difficult to get those IVs. You really have to spend a lot of money to get a whole bunch of raid passes and whatnot, and it really just comes down to luck. And I think for a lot of players, that's something that is not necessarily that engaging. It can be quite cumbersome. Like for example, recently I really wanted to get myself a 100% IV Blacephalon, and I just went all out, did as many Blacephalon raids as I could, and I just simply could not get it. And it was actually quite disappointing. So yeah, I think having something like hyper training definitely changes up a lot of those frustrations, because you're finally going to be able to have a little bit more player control when it comes to IVs. If you want 100% IVs of a particular Pokemon, now you will have the option to actually get it without having to spend a boatload of money on raid passes or egg incubators and different things like that. Now, considering that this is an upcoming feature and it's not officially announced yet, we really do not have a lot of info regarding how hyper training is going to work, and we're only going off of data mined info. As Niantic continuously updates Pokemon GO, they trickle in a little bit of back-end code for this upcoming feature, and that's how we're discovering how it's going to work and that it's coming in the first place, because Niantic did implement a lot of code regarding hyper training, and it's all preemptive. It's all stuff that they're just putting into the game code before it actually gets released, and we're basically going off of that knowledge. Now, this is something that I do need to mention. It is definitely something you should take with a grain of salt, because everything that I'm about to talk about, it's all from data mined info, not from some official announcement. So that means there are a lot of things that are subject to change. And as players give feedback regarding this mechanic, I think Niantic will make some changes before they actually release it. So, what was recently revealed? Well, we actually know that there's going to be a time limit for how long you could hyper train with your Pokemon, and we also know what some of the tasks that you will be required to complete actually entail, and some of these tasks are definitely going to be controversial. I'm just going to read through every single one of the tasks and kind of share my thoughts as we go along. So, the first two tasks that they have listed involve the GO Battle League. Actually, it's the first three. So, the first task involves battling in the GO Battle League X number of times with the trainee in your battle party, and that means you will need to engage in PvP battles. Unfortunately, this is a reality with hyper training, and it totally makes sense because it's all about training your Pokemon. So, if you're someone who's not into PvP, do not worry. It's basically going to involve just battling in the GO Battle League with these first two tasks. You do not have to win those PvP battles. That's going to be a different task that you'll see really soon. But yeah, you could just jump into a PvP battle. I'm assuming you could just lose purposefully and it will still count towards completing this task. So do not worry about this one. It's really this other one that you should worry about, because there is a task that says you have to win a certain number of trainer battles with the Pokemon in your battle party. So I think there is a bit of a way to kind of cheat the system here. What you could do is tank all of your PvP battles. Maybe you could go like a whole week of just tanking your battles, and when I say tank, that means like losing purposefully, so that you get paired up with really low level players or players who are just also trying to lose purposefully, and you'll be able to just complete those battles without breaking a sweat. So that's probably going to be the best method for winning trainer battles with the trainee in your battle party, but I really do not know if Niantic is going to fix that by the time we get to hyper training. I do think it's also kind of a shady method. I know PvPers hate people who tank, so yeah, if you're someone who just simply does not care about PvP, that is definitely an option. So that is something you should definitely consider. Now, there's also going to be some tasks involving gym battles. I think it's very simple. You just need to battle in a gym a certain number of times with the trainee in your battle party. So yeah, just have it in your gym battle party. You don't have to necessarily battle with the Pokemon, I believe. You could just have it in the party and then just wipe down a low level gym with a high level Pokemon. That's probably the thing you have to do. And then you will have to just simply engage in battles. They have tasks that says you just have to battle with the Pokemon. I think that's just very generic. Probably just have to jump into anything, whether it be raid battles, PvP, gym battles, maybe even the trainer battles. I think this is probably going to be the easiest task that you will have to complete. And then you will have to do raid battles. There's a couple of tasks that involve doing raid battles with the particular Pokemon in your raid party. And I think it's going to run very similar to gym battles as well as PvP. It just needs to be in the party and you could use whatever Pokemon that you need. Moving right along, they have the same tasks, but this time with Team Go Rocket battles. So you'll just need to engage in Team Go Rocket grunt battles with the Pokemon in your party. And then there's one for the team leader battles and as well as trainer battles. I'm assuming this is going to work with the 3 team leader battles that are PvE content. Like, you know, if you go into the battle screen, there's actually options to battle Candela and Blanc as well as the instinct guy. I really don't care about him, but yeah, you could just battle them. I think this is probably going to be the easiest out of all of the battle tasks. You just have to jump in there. They're really easy to take down, and you just need to make sure the Pokemon is in the battle party. And then there's also some tasks involving the buddy adventure system, and I think this is very much common sense. Like, you just have to play with your buddy. That's all they really have listed here. So yeah, pretty easy stuff. You just have your Pokemon that you're hyper training as your buddy, and then you just swipe on it, and then you're going to be able to see the heart appear above its head, and then you played with it. So that's how you're going to complete that task. But it's going to be over multiple days. That is something you need to keep in mind. So there is a bit of time gating here. And if you want to complete all these tasks, or if you're required to complete all these tasks, then yeah, that's probably why you shouldn't just sit on this until the very end. You should just, as soon as you start engaging in the hyper training, you should just start on these tasks right away. And along the same lines, you will also need to explore a certain number of kilometers with the trainee as your buddy, and then you will need to complete field research tasks with the trainee as your buddy. There's a lot of these that involve just completing various tasks with the Pokemon as your buddy. So yeah, it might be a good way for you to, you know, kind of double dip here. Like, if you want to get some buddy hearts while you're hyper training, you could definitely do so, because a lot of these tasks involve the Pokemon being your buddy while you complete it. So yeah, that is definitely something you should keep in mind. And then there's actually some power-up tasks, and even if the Pokemon is already maxed out, you don't have to worry, because you just need to power up a Pokemon that shares the same type as the trainee Pokemon. So let's say you're hyper training a Pokemon like, I don't know, Mewtwo. It's a Psychic type Pokemon. If you want to complete this task, you do not need to power up another Mewtwo or the Mewtwo that you are hyper training. You just need to power up another Psychic Pokemon. So let's say you have a whole bunch of throwaway routes in your collection, and it says that you have to power it up 10 times. Then just power up that routes 10 times, and your Mewtwo will get the credit for the power up task. So I think that's at least how it's going to work, but based on the wording, that seems to be what it is. And then you will need to take snapshots with the Pokemon on different days. I do not know if this means you can take snapshots directly from your Pokemon storage, or if it's something you have to do with it as your buddy. It doesn't really say here, but there is a possibility that those two are the options. So we'll find out more once this gets released, but it does look like you could possibly get this completed by just taking a picture of it from your collection, and it doesn't have to be your buddy. But again, if you want to double dip and also collect the hearts, you might as well do it from the buddy system, so that you can not only get the task completed, but you will also get the extra heart for taking a picture of your Pokemon. And then finally, you will need to spin a certain number of Pokestops with the Pokemon as your buddy. Very straightforward. Just have it as your buddy and just go about your day playing the game, and you will complete these tasks. So yeah, this is a pretty long list of tasks, but a lot of the stuff is quite easy. It's really the battle stuff which is going to be kind of difficult for a lot of players. I'm sure there's going to be people out there who do not like the idea that you're going to be forced into PvP battles. That aspect of Pokemon Go is quite niche. I don't know a lot of players who just generally play the game but also engage in PvP. It really seems to be a very specific audience with this game. So I do feel like for a lot of players feeling like they're forced into that aspect of the gameplay, yeah, I do think that's going to be quite controversial, and we already know this because when it comes to getting to level 50 with your trainer, like, you do have to complete some PvP tasks, and those typically are the most unpopular tasks that they have to complete. So yeah, I do think that part is going to be a little bit controversial, especially because there is a time limit to completing hyper training, and I do think that overall, it really depends. Like, if you really want to get your Pokemon to 100% IVs, I'm really glad that there's a little bit of friction, that you're just not going to be able to get it right away. That Niantic is implementing a lot of tasks, some of them that are outside of a typical player's comfort zone, just so that you are engaging with the game. It's actually going to feel like training. Because the one thing I would have really hated is that this is just an item that you use that will just automatically increase the IVs of the Pokemon. I really like the idea of you having to complete various tasks with the Pokemon involved, and that's going to allow you to make it stronger. It's not just going to be an item that's just going to instantly power it up. So yeah, that's just my personal opinion on it. I know there's some players out there who would have preferred something a little bit different, but overall, I'm thinking this is all going to be pretty cool, and it's going to be a great way to drive up engagement with Pokemon Go, and I'm all for that. But in any case, yeah, this is all the stuff that was revealed with the most data mined info. Definitely share your thoughts regarding what you think about this down below. Are you excited for hyper training? Do you feel like a lot of this stuff is doable? And just overall, like, what are your thoughts? Like, do you feel like this is going to be a good thing for the game, or do you feel like this is something that Niantic should not do? Definitely share your reasons for thinking that down below, and let's have a great discussion. And thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here, and don't forget the notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, the absolute best way you could do that is going to be by joining my Patreon. If you decide to become a paid Patreon member, I'm going to add you to my Pokemon Go friends list. So that means for stuff like remote raids, the friendship system, opening and sending gifts. If you want to play Pokemon Go with me, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, you're always welcome to do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms that you see on the bottom of your screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow. And with all that said, that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself today, and I'll catch you all later.